My name is Kendall Sheneke, a senior at Pewaukee High School. Today is August 24th, 2016. The time is 5:08 and we're at St. John's Northwestern Military Academy. I'm interviewing John Bosch, who was born on April 6, 1926 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and served in the Pacific Theater in World War II between 1944 and 1946. John Bosch was a sergeant in the Army and served in a field artillery battalion in the United States Army. This interview is sponsored by the Bell Tower Memorial. What was your life like before joining the Army?
Well, before joining, I was going to high school and I was working part-time in a drugstore on weekends. And I played volleyball and I played basketball and I played baseball. And then when I turned 18 in April, I got a letter in the mail welcoming me to go on a vacation. You are now going to be in their service, so by the end of June, 2 weeks after high school, I was drafted in the Army. And I went down to Fort Sill, Oklahoma for basic training on a mule pack on 75 howitzers. And when we finished that 16 weeks of training, I had a 9-day furlough at home, and then I was shipped back to Fort Sill, and then from there we were put on train, went out to San Francisco to get ready to be shipped overseas, where we did not know. And before we were ready to leave in the middle of December, our barracks next door got measles, so we were quarantined for 2 weeks. So we played volleyball and basketball till the time was up, and when we got on the ship, it was New Year's Eve night, went underneath this Golden Gate Bridge at New Year's Day. And the big story was when a couple of fellas and I were leaning over the railing, doing our thing, and after that I never did it anymore, and we were all comfortable.
And what was it like just straight in the beginning to just leave your family and your home for the military?
You know, I think about this. Everybody asks me the same thing, and now that I think about it, it felt like I was going on a vacation. It never really bothered me that I was afraid to go. I just went, and everything worked out. It's just something that never bothered me. Why, I don't know. I can't say. Like we had a couple of kids that went after we were in there for a while. They were homesick and stuff. Well, everybody does, but it never seemed to bother me.
And you had basic training at Fort Sill, you
Fort
said.
Sill, Oklahoma, yeah.
What were your first days of service like there?
Pardon?
What were your first days of service like there?
First day of service, we just got introduced to everybody, and they showed us what we were going to do. And then we had 7 mules that we broke the howitzer down and packed it on these mules. And I have to say, after about 14 weeks, we had a corporal that came back from China. He was in that Burma thing, went in the mule pack, and he was teaching us. We were having a contest between A, B, and C companies for tying on the supplies on one of the mules. And I have to not brag it, but that corporal and me, no one could beat us. We had the record for tying on the load on a mule. But the basic training was learning the rifles, howitzer, nighttime maneuvers we had, and strengthening exercises. It was right every day from about 6:30 we got up, 8 o'clock breakfast, and from 9 to 5, Saturdays we got off, Saturday, got passes to go to Lawton, Oklahoma. But to me, I enjoyed it, let's just put it that way.
You adapted to military life well.
Pardon?
You adapted to military life well.
Oh, yes. Yes, very well, yeah. To me, like I told you, it felt like I was going on vacation, especially when we were on the sea and didn't know where we were going.
Right. You soon shipped out for additional training. What was that like?
We shipped we shipped out of Frisco, and we thought we were going to Hawaii. That was rumors on the ship. And they told us on the ship we were going to go across the Atlantic, Pacific all by ourselves, no escort. And every 15 minutes we zigzagged because it took that long for a submarine to zero on your ship, so they couldn't zero on you. So And as we were coming closer, we thought, well, we're going to go to Hawaii now. Well, somebody came on the loudspeaker and they said, well, if you all look to your right, well, we must have been going west, directly west. He said, there's Hawaii, but we kept on going. We ended up in New Guinea, and that's where we took some extra basic, some training, that going down the ropes on the side of a ship and throwing our gear down. And then from there, we went on another ship over to Lengay Gulf in Leyte, and then we put on a truck, and then I joined an outfit, the 147 Field Artillery, which was attached to the 158 combat team, and that's how we started, and I was up in the front lines.
So, in the Philippines, what were your thoughts and experiences on your first mission?
In the first mission, to be honest with you, when I first got there to join the outfit, the 147, they were in rest camp. They were getting ready to go make an invasion after we found out after a while at Batangas. Well, one morning we got up and we were lined to get up, and they make it like, they check you out, a little exercise, have roll call in the morning. Well, with my name Bosch, I was right up in front, and they pointed out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you 5 guys come with us. So they put us on a truck, took us over to some ammunition dump, and we loaded all these 105, I was on a 105 howitzer then, all these 105 ammunition on this truck, which I didn't know was going to go up to where he's going, so we had that truck all loaded. As we're coming back, going through Manila, and the soldiers were out there, and they put me on the back of this truck, and it had a machine gun on top of the hood, on top of the roof, which I had never shot in my life before. But it was all set to just pull the trigger. And when we got up to the front lines, my outfit was there, and all my clothes, they all left before we got back. And they had the gun dug in. We dug holes for our howitzer, and they gave me a number 1 gun, C battery, and the infantry in front of us was shooting mortars, and it was dark. It was getting dark already. And I said, how the heck do you guys sleep here? And they said, don't worry, after 2 days, you'll never hear it. So that was my first experience up in the front lines.
And so, what was your role with your battalion on the front lines?
I loaded the gun on the front lines. First of all, there were 7 bags of powder in a casing, and if the people up front that call us in for how we send up the mission, how much they need or what direction it goes and stuff, well, I was on that loading, cutting them bags up, and they say 4 bags or 5, and then we give the shell to the loader. Well, that one night, all of a sudden they said, Bosch, get up at here. The guy that was loading in front of me, he did something with his thumb, and he loaded it in the breech, and he busted his thumb off. So, I don't know, they just said, come up here, so I started loading the gun, and that was my job after one.
And so basically, your mission there was to liberate those cities, right?
Oh yeah, we made a beachhead landing in Batangas, and we had no resistance there, but the infantry was always ahead of us, and they called for firepower. And after we secured that in Batangas, that was on Luzon in the Philippines. And then we made another mission. We got on both ships again and made another beachhead landing farther south in Legazpi, Luzon. And there they bombed, the Navy behind us were shelling the beach, so they cleared up for the infantry when they got on there first. Well, they had that beach bombed so bad, and all around it, that when the infantry got off of their ship, off of their landing gear, they had to take their bulldozers off first and flatten out the beach so they could bring their equipment and get out, because it was all full of holes. So then when we could come out too with our guns, that we could get on there. But that was my first, second beachhead landing we made. And there we had to get support. They had the infantry pinned down one night, and they called in I don't know why they didn't ask for us to help them with our 105s, but they called in airplanes. So P-30, P-51s came in, and they were strafing whatever they were doing up there to clear the way for the infantry. Then we started moving in, and that took a little more action than we had before, and then they were I hate to say it, but some of the guys were getting killed that we sent up there to do our observing, forward observing, and nobody volunteered anymore. So I was, Bosch, you're early.
Yeah.
So he said, you're gonna go up there. So I went up there for 5 days, and that's where I learned when they got you pinned down in a foxhole that you can't get out there shooting at. Then you really know you're in war. That's the first. We were shelled with big casing, guns, big cannons, howitzers too from the Japanese shot. But I was never up at the front lines until that night, and that was changed your attitude about the war. It told me that this is for real. Otherwise, being back with the infantry, we were all called to help the infantry. Being back behind the infantry, we were called on to help the infantry. We didn't see that much at first until we got farther inland. And then they had their guns, the Japanese had their big guns, 12-inch howitzers up there, and they would shell us at night. And the first time up there too, we always had perimeter guards out there. There was somebody in guard all night long. And the first time we were up in Legaspi, out in the perimeter, we were on the watch. The guy said to us, when you're watching, if you see a caribou going by, you shoot it. Because the Jacks would tie themselves on the side of the caribou and then infiltrate your position where you are, get inside and kill us. So that's what we did. But okay.
How did you feel in those moments?
I was just going to say, as you think a little bit, they bombed at night. I would say 90% of their bombings, when they did bomb us behind the infantry, it was always at nighttime. And then you didn't know it was coming, but the guys, I was a replacement. But people that they lost, that they had to fill back in. Well, I joined. They were in islands before me. They came from Australia, the outfit they joined. And some of them guys, they knew what they were doing. When they told you to do something, you did it, because they knew what's going on. But that one morning after that night, I told you when they bombed at I don't know, 12, 1, 2 in the morning, there was some shrapnel I saw out in the field. We were out in some field that was cut down. And I was going to go out, I went out there to pick it up, and there's a hunk of shrapnel. It was still warm. And it just happened about 12 or 1 o'clock or something like this. It was about 5 in the morning. But after the hardest part was nighttime. That you didn't know what was going on. You had to worry about everybody was dug in. You slept in foxholes, and you had guards out every night. And then in the morning came, you got up and you took a shower in your helmet, which was, I'm just making a joke. And I always say we all slept in the Rock Bottom Hotel, a foxhole. So that was our last position. And then we left Legaspi, and we went to Japan for occupation after the war was over. Oh, when we were in Legaspi, we went to the rest camp, and we were getting ready to invade. They told us we were going to invade Japan, and they said we're going to be issued winter clothes, because we had all summer clothes. And we had a meeting. Then one morning, the Filipinos built a theater for us out of logs for seats and a big stage. Well, they had I don't know, it was the colonel or general or something was up on stage telling us something, getting to the point. Then when he came to the point, he says, well, we're going to get you guys ready. We're going to go invade northern part of Japan, and 75% of you won't be coming home. So went up. It was kind of quiet. But 2 weeks later, they dropped a bomb in Army language, see their butt.
Yeah. How did you feel when you heard the atomic bomb was dropped in Japan, kind of ending the war?
We cheered and celebrated, I have to admit that. It was something that If it would have been 2 more weeks later, we probably know we'd have been later, but if they wouldn't have dropped that, we would have definitely been there. But then I was set up. We waited till everything cleared up and stuff, and then we were put on ships to go to Japan, occupation. And when we left Legazpi and we got out on the ocean, we were just out of Okinawa, and there were 2 typhoons out there. And there were 5 of us ships going, and we were the last ship. Well, when we went, they went through, and we didn't get through the first one, so they turned around, and when we turned around, there was another one behind us. We went up, we went back, and we went up, and we went back between these typhoons. And I had 2 life jackets on, and I thought that was worse than the war. I thought we were going to be gone. Well, anyhow, long story short, we made it to settle down, and we made it to Japan. We landed in Yokohama Harbor a couple of days after the first ones went through, and then we got on we slept out on the docks out there that night. Next morning we got in a Jeep and we went up to Utsunomiya, Japan. They liberated some airport. They took all the parts and stuff, and kept the planes, whatever they did to do. We did that till about, I don't know, end of December, and in January we went back to Yokohama, and they put me on the ordnance in the office, doing typing, and making ordnance for the sheets to take their inventory. Then we're waiting, I burned points so I could get home, and that's what we did till we got home.
So what would you say your service was like there? I mean, you said you're doing the office ordinance. What were you doing there?
We were put in this office, when I went to school, when I graduated from high school, 1 year I took typing. So they must have had it on my record or something, so they put me in this ordinance department, making stencils, not like today where we have the computer and the electric typewriter. Well, they had the big typewriter there, and these stencils were about that long. It was all parts, ordnance parts for the Army. And you had the serial number and the nomenclature and what it fit and all this, because I noticed, because after a while I was in this business. Well, anyhow, we were doing that for a couple of days, me and another fella, and one day they came up to me and they said, John, there's 100 some more stencils to be made. If you want to do them, we'll give you, but you have to have them done by a certain day. You can have the job if you want. You come in anytime you want. So I figured out I could do so many a day, and I said, sure, I'll take it. So I slept in the morning, came in there in the morning, did some work, and then that weekends we went up north to some hotel and just had a weekend outing. But I just worked there, I don't know how many months it was, until I got enough points to come home. And then I was starting to, after, I think I left there end of April, was put on a ship, and I got discharged in Camp McCoy on the 15th of May of '46. Went home on a train all by myself.
And what was it like to be home after winning the war?
Like I said before, it was just like coming home just to my parents. There was no greeting or nothing. In fact, my sister was in the hospital in Madison. She had a brain tumor, and I stopped her before I even went home to see her. So it really, I really never thought that much about what we did, you know, that it would affect my life or something. It's hard to believe. Now that I think about it, I never thought about it before until all this is happening. But it was well worth it. Never one day did I thought we'd lose the war. Never. Never. We had the equipment, we had the people, we had the personnel. They knew what they were doing. And when we did something, we did it right, and it worked out fine. Never thought we'd lose the war. Never. And I was thinking about too now, sitting at home. If we were an 18-year-old kid, could help the country. I'm sorry. It's making me feel so good. Turn it off. Excuse me. I'll do better. Sometimes I just think about that. It said, all you people that come and see me, and all this stuff that we did. And you let me talk. I'm sorry. But I can't believe how this, it turns out that the people, they want to listen. And this is my, I've said this on the radio and I said this on the television. And when we went someplace, there's veterans out there that want to tell their story. There's some out there that don't want to tell their story. And there's some veterans out there that will want to tell the story, but nobody will listen to them. And there's people out there, they know these people, these veterans, whoever they are, just take time to listen. There's stories out there that you would not believe, even if it was a clerk or if he was a cook, or if he was just a headquarters man. We're up in the front lines fighting with a rifle, or an airplane coming in paratrooping. They all have different stories to tell. And some want to tell it and some want people to listen. So I always say, my saying would be, take time to listen. So was my Army career, 18 years old.
Could you share with me an example of strong leadership you encountered while you were in the Army?
As far as what?
Just like somebody you saw who had like strong leadership.
Oh, that way, I would say, yes, when we landed in Batangas, that was my first experience getting up in the front lines. We had a lieutenant, no, he was a lieutenant, Lieutenant Robert something, his name was, I think. Well, anyhow, when we were in it, we were in M5 as a track. We could put the 7 people on there with a gun, and we pulled our gun behind us, and we were going along this road, and there was a big open field. And he said he directed us all. We went in there with the other trucks and everything. We started digging holes, and there's one guy named George Sadler. He's a big guy, and we put the gun together himself. And I said, "You dig our foxholes." I said, "I'll get the gun ready with the other guys. Just dig the foxhole." So he had the foxholes all dug. And we were ready to get the gun set up, and the lieutenant, that Robert, or whatever his name, he came over, he said, "We're moving." Well, there was a few choice words said, but we all loaded back up again and went down the road. And that's the night I told you that we were shelled with that big gun. Yeah. That's where all the shells were landing in that field. They had a pole there with a big disc on, like that thing. So he thought we should move it because he thought that thing wasn't right, that maybe there's a zeroing in point, and sure enough. He knew what was going on, and he moved it up. We could have all been dead there. That's where all them shells landed, in that open, well, that part of that big field there. You know, that guy knew what he was doing too. Just the lieutenant too. But everybody, there's a lot of people that did their jobs. We had a lot of, from South Dakota, we had these Native American Indians, and they would set up the perimeter around. They did their own talking between them, their Indian talk, whatever, but we never had a code. They worked, when they set up a perimeter with the hand grenades and the wire, in the morning when we were ready to move, they'd come, they were the guys that would pick it back up again. It was all, whatever everybody did in those things, they did their job and they did it right. They were taught the right way. That's why I told you before, I says, I never thought we were going to lose the war. Never. It was an experience. When you're young like that, you have more, not guts, but well, I never thought of it that way until you get really pinned down to it, you can't move. But otherwise, the faster we went ahead, it made us feel better that we knew what we were doing. Yeah, I never had a problem that way.
And how would you say your service has continued since you've left the military?
Since I left the military, I've joined the American Legion in the VFW, and I've been involved with that, and I've been through all the posts, the commander in the first and second, third, in the chapter, all the way down the line, set up parties and stuff, and went to all their doings, and still involved if they have something going on. It's and I go to reunions. We had been going till the end, And then when you get to the reunions, you see people you hadn't seen in 40 years. It's all talk, you don't talk about, you talk about how you're doing and stuff, you get to, but it all comes back, what you did here and what you did there, and somebody had this up there, and it all comes back. And you'd be surprised when you have a couple hundred people come to a reunion that they showed that they still cared, you know. Went out to California for a big reunion. We had 280-some people at the reunion for the 147 Field Artillery and headquarters battery, two together. But otherwise, other than this, and now I'm involved with this, since this honor flight, getting involved with trying to put the word out that people are listening more to the veteran. Why, I don't know, but I think they're doing a good job. I really, really appreciate that. And I think all the veterans appreciate that too, that they're getting, not that you have to be noticed, but that's like being a doctor. You got to put on your resume, I was a veteran. Everybody can write that down there, you know.
You talked about your contributions after your service, but what would you consider to be one of your more important contributions during your service?
After the war? During the war? I don't know. Everything I did, I suppose, I can't remember. It seemed like doing what I was doing just came, I shouldn't say it came naturally, but it came to a point where I just did it, you know. It felt that we had to do it. I never thought that I shouldn't have to do it, pardon me. That, I don't know, it's, I never thought that way. I never thought, and you know what, I have to tell you too, I always thought I'd make it back. Why, I don't know. But we made it. And the ones that didn't make it, they suffered, their people suffer back home too. There's always somebody that's left alone that don't get recognized. But have to keep going on.
What are some of the life lessons you've learned from military service?
What I've learned from military service, I'll tell you what, when we first got in there, of all the different people that I met from different states, different cities, all over the country, there's not one alike. There's something that I learned when I came back. Not that you have to make friends with everybody, but the more people that you are friendly with and associate with, that makes you that made me happy. That's like when you get friends, even come from the bank. That's just floors me. Well, anyhow, there's all memories coming back, you know. But we survived. And I gotta say, if I didn't get it out before that, to think of 18-year-old kids, and maybe the oldest ones we had was 10 years older than me. They were 28, the ones that were original. They were on their way over too before the war started, and they ended up in Australia. And one of the guys in that group was a cook from my company. And then after the war, we got together and we used to go listen what our unions together, and we kept on contact with each other. But I was thinking about this now after I sit and wonder that all us young people were fighting for this country, and the people at home were making everything for us. That worked out. It worked out to a T. You know, they call the women what do they call the women? Rosie's River. Yeah. See, now all this stuff comes back to me when I think about it, but it's all good. I can't say I had bad stuff. There were times when you wish you weren't there. You know, I should have to say it. But to be honest with you, these people, the veterans that go to war now, they've got it rough. I would say their chance of, well, I shouldn't. They're so much more vulnerable to getting killed than we were, I think. That's why I look at it now. they walk down the street over there and then some kid will walk up with a bomb and kill them. Now, we never had this stuff over there at that time. But I learned that that's why I joined the VFW and the American Legion. VFW, American Legion, I was involved. We had parties and stuff, and I got involved with all that. And you got friends, you met people, you talk to people. And now, since this honor flight, all this is happening, and I can't believe it, but people, to me, wherever it's coming from, they're starting to listen more. They're bringing up things like you're bringing up this interview, which brings me back. I can close my eyes and see exactly everything I did. And I just would love to see some of the people that I was with, which we saw at the reunions. And I think like you say, if it did something for me, meeting all those different people and the way I shouldn't say you knew how they live, but you could tell that everybody was different. It was just, you picked out the people that you but we knew everybody, but there was 7 of some of our guys, even 5 and some of the other guys, after we got to Japan, some of us stayed together, and those older guys all went home. But then we'd go out after that weekend when we had time to go out, we'd camaraderie and go on trips someplace up north in the mountains, see the falls or see the shrines and stuff. But as far as being in the service, I don't regret going. It never bothered me that I didn't want to go. It taught me a lot of things, what I could do, and I know I could do it, and I had to do it there because it had to be done. I never loaded a big gun like that before, and all of a sudden, and ended up when they needed support, they always called our gun. I have to admit, we were the #1 gun in the whole battle, all the sea battle, for all the 4 guns. So we did something right, I think.
How do you want people to remember World War II and the impacts it's made?
No, there's a hard. I don't know if you people watch Archie Bunker, but he always said he was in the Second World War, the big one. I consider it just a war that had to be won, period. At that time, to me, I didn't know all this would happen, turn everything around like that, but now that I think about it, I can see why we were there. Otherwise, when I first came home, if I told our other daughter, Barbara, Jane is the one that brought me here today, my other daughter, and I always said to her, if we wouldn't have won that war, everybody would be eating with chopsticks. And Barbara says she tells that to people that when they talk about stories or something comes up like that. So, no, I had no regrets going to the Army. And I learned things about doing stuff. And when I told you I was at that ordnance typing, I ended up in the automobile business in the parts department. So that whatever happened there, that worked out before I went. So.
You brought pictures along from your time.
Yeah, that's
in
when I
service.
was, sure.
What is this first one?
That's Fort Sill, Oklahoma, and I was getting ready to go to California. I had my basic training finished, and that was in 1944. That probably was about June, July, August, September, October, in Fort Sill, Oklahoma. And that was when they were loading the infantry at Legazpi, Luzon in the Philippines. They landed with landing barges before we did, the infantry. And that's the gun I was on. We were in our last position when we were finished. We secured the whole battalion, or Legazpi, and we were cleaning the gun up to get ready to go back to rest camp. And I'm the front man in the front there. And that's our gun crew, yeah. And when the war was over, the battery clerk, they went home, and out of the clear blue sky, they said, John, you're going to be the new battery clerk. So I was battery clerk, just like radar and on MASH. So I was battery clerk for a couple of months before we were shipped to Japan. And that one is, I can't see it, which one is it? Oh, that's what they were loading equipment out of Legazpi to take it back to where they were going, but I don't know. And after a while, we got on a bigger ship. That's where they just put the equipment on. We got on a big ship to go to Japan. And that's when I left Yokohama Bay to go up to Utsunomiya, Japan for taking over that airport up there. And I'm sitting in the back seat. And that was the last, before we came home. Then I was there till middle of April, and then we shipped home.
All right, so in closing, this has been an interview with John Bosch regarding his service during World War II. My name is Kendall Schenicke. The time is 5:44. Thank you so much for sharing your story and for serving for our country.
Thank you for having me here, and I appreciate you all coming. You did a nice job. Thank you very much. Do a good job studying.
Thank you.